Hello and welcome to today's video. This is going to be ranking every eyeshadow palette that I tried in 2020. And it is a lot. It is 58 eyeshadow palettes. I know that is quite a bit. I did go into 2020 wanting to try new palettes, new formulas, and I wanted to buy more palettes from my favorite brands. I had been on a low buy in 2019, so I did allow myself a larger budget for 2020 for eyeshadow palettes. However, for this year, I am on a low buy. I cannot buy very many palettes. I haven't bought any yet this year. I have a lot of great palettes and I just want to enjoy what I have now. I did do an entire eyeshadow palette collection video in December. I will link that if you do want to see everything. This is 58 palettes though, which is slightly over half of my collection. Some of these I did get in BoxyCharm and a few of them I did get in PR. I wasn't sure if I should include the BoxyCharm and the PR palettes, but I did do a poll on my Instagram stories and 83% of people said they did want me to include everything. I have tons of videos about eyeshadow palettes on my channel. I have an entire eyeshadow palette playlist and I also have a ranking makeup playlist if you do want to see more. I've done tons of videos about my best affordable palettes, neutral palettes, colorful palettes. I've done a lot and I've ranked a lot of them by brand such as Natasha Denona, ColourPop, and Pat McGrath. So you can check those out if you want to see more. Like I said, this may be a long video since I'm ranking 58 eyeshadow palettes and let's get into it. I took a lot into account in the ranking, such as how much I use the palette, the formula, the color story. A lot of it though is my personal preference. None of these are terrible palettes, so just keep that in mind. You know, everybody has different preferences. Sadly though, last place, number 58, is this e.l.f. bite-sized palette. It's the jalapeno one, and I had two other of these and I decluttered them. Now, I don't think this is terrible by any means. It's $3. It's a nice little color story. I just don't tend to reach for mini palettes as much. I do like the formula. I don't think this is bad, but I have so many other wonderful palettes. I really should not have purchased this because I really did not need it. So that one I may be getting rid of. And a few others in these bottom few numbers I may declutter at some point. Number 57 is this Ofra palette. This is the signature palette in Galaxy. I got this 50% off on their website a few months ago, and I don't know, it's only okay. Formula-wise, it's just not as pigmented as I would like. This color is beautiful. This is their highlighter in Neptune. All of these 5-pan palettes, the center color is one of their highlighters. These are beautiful purple shadows. They're just not as pigmented as I would like, and even though I only paid $14, I'm not really sure it was even worth that, to be honest. Next up, this one I have talked about so much on my channel. I don't love it, and I've been using it a lot this month. It is in my monthly makeup capsule, and it's in one of my project pans, and I still think it's mediocre. I know Nabla is a really popular brand, but I don't know, this is just not my favorite. This is the Coral Cutie palette. This color here is more sheer, it's more of a shimmer. This one is beautiful. I love that one though. This is, you know, a gold metallic, nothing super special. This red is only okay. The two matte shades are very good. I don't know, I just think the overall color story isn't my favorite, and I've mentioned in a lot of other videos that I really had wanted one of the larger palettes by Nabla, and I kind of cheaped out and settled for this, but it was kind of a waste of $24 to be honest. I just don't enjoy it that much, even though I've been using it a lot this month. Definitely gonna lose count, but it is what it is. Next up, one of the Fenty Snap Shadows. This is kind of a bummer. I was really looking forward to trying these. This is the one called Cool Neutrals. It's very pretty, it is, and I don't have that many neutrals in my collection as far as cool tones, but the other cool tones I have, I prefer over this. This is a really nice formula. I don't know, I just think color selection wise, these two shades are nearly identical, which is a little bit silly in such a small palette to dupe yourself within the palette, and it's a little hard for me to get a complete look out of this. I will say though, I often combine eyeshadow palettes. It's pretty rare for me to do a look with just one palette, but it's only okay. It's not terrible, but yeah, I have not used it a ton. Next up, we have one of the BoxyCharm palettes. This is the Ace Beauté Vintage Dawn. I do really enjoy this palette. I just think formula-wise, it's not amazing. I have one other Ace Beauté palette, and I think the formula on that one I like a little bit more. I have heard that they have reformulated. I'm not sure if that was before or after this palette. I love this color story. I love the golds. They're so rich in pigment. These shimmers, they're a bit chunky. They definitely need a wet brush. The mattes do blend pretty well, but I don't know, I think formula-wise, this one's only okay. All right, I think I'm on number 53, and it is this Natasha Denona Mini Lila palette. Now, as I mentioned, I did rank all my Natasha Denona palettes if you want to see that. I do like this one. I think the formula is actually pretty good. A lot of people didn't like this one. My issue is more the color selection. I bought this because it was 50% off at Sephora. I really should not have done that. I do think that this blue purple duochrome is gorgeous, and I have used that shade several times. It's truly unique. I have nothing like it in my collection, so this is not one that I want to declutter. I just don't love how there's, you know, 3 very purple shades and then 2 very neutral shades, and then these 2 colors. This is more purple, this is more burgundy, but on the eye, they do look nearly identical. So obviously, this is my least favorite Natasha Denona palette that I have, but I still do like it overall, and I don't think it's one I'm going to get rid of anytime soon. Then we have the Huda Beauty Rich Nudes palette, and I've mentioned this one before that I have regretted it as well. I ended up putting this in my Shop My Stash, I think it was in December, and I ended up using it quite a bit. And I actually like it more than I used to, but I do stand by the fact that some of these metallic shades have tons of fallout, even using glitter glue, wet brush, all of that throughout the day, which I don't love. This red does not do it as much. This one is definitely the worst of it, but this color is such a beautiful like rose gold pink shimmer. And I love the color story on this, I really do, and it does look beautiful on the eyes. The mattes in here are amazing. I just wish that you didn't get that fallout throughout the day. I don't love that when, you know, it's halfway through the day, I'm going to the bathroom at lunch and I see shimmer down here. I don't like the way that looks, obviously, but I do still like this. I once did consider decluttering it, but as I said, I used it more in December and I actually thought it was pretty good. Next up, we have this. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Rock Chic Quad, and this formula is spectacular, and you're going to see 2 other Charlotte Tilbury palettes in this ranking video. The reason this is getting ranked lower is that for $53, I have not used this that much, and honestly, I should not have gotten this because I don't wear these slate gray colors enough for me to have paid that much, if that makes sense. I think they're beautiful though, and every time I have worn this palette, it's gorgeous, and I love the Charlotte Tilbury formula, at least from the palettes that I've tried. I've heard some of her quads are hit or miss, but I just don't think I should have spent this much on something I'm not using that often. Same kind of with this palette. I just haven't used it as much as I thought that I would. This is one of the mini Pat McGrath palettes. This is the Mini Subversive. So this is the colorful one. This formula is amazing. I love it. It's beautiful. My issue is I haven't used this one as much as I wish I had. I bought this, I think, in March or April, and I don't know, I haven't used it as much. It's beautiful though. The shades are amazing. The formula is spectacular. So I'd like to get more use out of it, but so far I have not. Then we have the Wet n Wild Comfort Zone palette. This is actually something I did get in PR. This is their older packaging though. They have upgraded it. And actually I like this palette. I did previously own it quite a long time ago and I ended up decluttering it just because, I don't know, I went through a huge decluttering phase. But these shimmers are actually really nice. And a lot of them you don't need a wet brush. This one is beautiful. This one is beautiful. So is this one. So is this one. These 2 have a bit more glitters in them and I don't like them quite as much, but I think this section of the palette is gorgeous. And yeah, I mean, I think this palette's only around $6 or $7. And yeah, I'm actually impressed with the formula and I'm glad to have this in my life again. Then we have the Urban Decay Wired palette. This is a palette that did get pretty bad reviews overall. And I will say I don't think it's the best formula that I've tried as far as colorful eyeshadows. Some of the shades perform better than others. Some are a little hard to blend. But I will say, I think these colors are really unique. A lot of these, I don't have other colors like them in my collection. I do love colorful eyeshadow. I love rainbow eye looks. Obviously today I'm wearing a very neutral look, but I do love colorful eyeshadow. I got this when it was 50% off at Ulta, and I think For me, getting it for 50% off, I don't regret it at all. Yes, the formula could be better, but I'm actually really glad that I did buy this. All right, this next palette is the Natasha Denona Blue and Purple palette. Now, I like this. I think the formula is amazing. I love Natasha Denona. When I ranked my Natasha Denona palettes, I did talk about this one, and I don't love it as much, and it's very, very expensive. This is $239 full price. I paid $155 because I bought the bundle with this one and the green and brown palettes, so I technically paid $155 for each, which is really a crazy amount of money, I know. A few of the shades are not as good. A few of these purples are just not as pigmented as I'd like. These two are beautiful. The blues are all amazing. The more neutral shades are great, but I don't know. I just think for something this expensive, it really should be perfect. There should be no dud shades at this price point. So I find this one a little bit disappointing just because it's so pricey. I don't really regret getting it necessarily, but yeah, if I knew what I know now, I'm not sure that I would get it, but it's still a really good palette. It's just not as perfect as I would like for how pricey it is. Here's another one that I got on sale. I got this for 50% off. This is the Marc Jacobs Glambition palette. So I paid $24, which is still kind of a lot for such few eyeshadows. This is a really, really nice formula though. It is incredibly pigmented though, so you have to go with a very light hand, especially for the matte shades. The first couple times I used this, I put way too much on my brush and it was a bit of a mess, I will say, but the shimmers are beautiful. The mattes are great. I mean, this is a good palette. I don't really have anything negative to say about it. It just didn't really wow me as much as the other ones. And if I had gotten this for $50, I would be pretty disappointed, to be honest, but I'm glad I didn't pay that much. So, you know, considering I got it 50% off, I don't regret it. I enjoy it, but yeah, it's not my favorite in my collection. Next up, we have the Zoeva Cocoa Blend. I got this in BoxyCharm, and I actually really like this palette. I had another Zoeva palette that I did declutter, the Spice of Life, which also came in BoxyCharm. By the way, I'm really glad that I canceled BoxyCharm. I had it for 6 months in 2020. I got a lot of good stuff, but overall, I think it was just a lot coming in at once. But this one I do think is nice. The mattes by Zoeva are so good. They blend very easily. This does cost $28 full price. Some of the shimmers I would like a bit more pigment and shine than they have. This one though is beautiful, and so is this one. But these here, I don't know, they're just not as pigmented as I would like. As I said, the mattes are amazing. I do think that this is a good palette. You know, if I had gone out and paid $28 for this, I don't think I would regret it. So that one is actually pretty good. Next up, we have the ColourPop Sweet Talk palette. I placed a ColourPop order at the beginning of 2020 because I wanted to get some of their palettes that I'd never tried. And this is one that was so hyped up. People absolutely love this palette, and I like it, I do. I just don't think it's amazing. I did remove the 2 glitter shades because I've gotten eye irritation from the ColourPop pressed glitters. I wear contacts, so I think that has something to do with it. So I don't use those anymore. This Super Shock shade, it's only okay. The rest of the palette is really good though. The mattes in this are beautiful, and I do love the looks that I get with this palette, but you know, it's not amazing. It's obviously not my favorite by ColourPop, but I still think it's a good palette, you know, and it is only $16. Next up, we have these 2 minis by Juvia's Place. I did review these and did a tutorial at the beginning of last year with these. I think they are very good. I have not gotten as much use though as I wish I had. This is the Violets, beautiful. And I do love the Juvia's formula. These metallics are so metallic. The mattes blend very easily. These are really unique in my collection. I don't have anything like that. I like the berries slightly more. I've gotten more use out of the berries just because I think they're colors I would wear more often. Absolutely beautiful though. I mean, really, I don't have anything bad to say about these. I just didn't use them as much as some of these other palettes, but as you can see, I got a lot of palettes, so it's kind of hard to use them when you have so many. I'm gonna group these together as well. I really do like them. I feel the same about them. They are the Smashbox ones. This is the Ablaze. These are $29, so this is the warm neutral one, and then this is the Punked, which is the taupe purple one. I think these formulas are really nice. The metallics, I don't even need to use a wet brush with these. The mattes are very pigmented, but they're easy to work with. These palettes are great. They really are. They're compact. They don't take up a lot of space. They're $29, which may be a little pricey for what you're getting, but I do think that these are quite good, and I really do want to use these more this year. Next up, I'm going to group these three together because I kind of feel the same way about them. They are these ColourPop palettes. These are the ones that are $12, 9 pan. This is the Going Coconuts. This is a very, very neutral palette. It's really nice, easy to work with. I will say that the shimmers from ColourPop, I have to use them with a wet brush. All the palettes, I have to use a wet brush. Otherwise, there's tons of fallout, and even throughout the day, there's fallout, which I don't love. But with a wet brush, they are amazing. These are beautiful. It's a glam neutral palette. You can do some pretty simple looks, or you can really smoke it out and get a lot of shine, particularly with these two colors. So that one is very good. Then also the Mint to Be, which I have not used as much just because it is obviously very, very minty. This one is super monochromatic and does lack a little bit of depth, I will say. I did a review on this when it came out. So overall, I like this one. I'm glad that I have it. But, you know, if you're not going to use mint eyeshadow all the time, I'd probably just buy a single, honestly. The Lilac Hue a lot, I like probably a little bit more than the other two just because I've actually used it the most. It is a beautiful purple and lilac palette, and it's got more variety than the other two. I think you have some lighter shades, you've got that depth here, you've got a variety of metallics, even though this is a monochromatic palette. I think this one is amazing, so I do like it a little bit better than the other two. I think the quality is great. I do like the ColourPop formula. Like I said, I get a lot of fallout with the shimmers if I don't use a wet brush, but if I do, I have no issues. I gotta say this middle section of the ranking is probably the hardest. It's easier to pick out the favorites and the least favorites, but the in-between is probably harder to do. Next up, we have the MAC Burgundy x9 palette. This is a small mini palette. I think it's around $29. I think this formula is great. This is another one I wish I had used more, and I do want to use it more going forth here. It is a beautiful palette. It is. I think the MAC formula is pretty underrated as far as eyeshadows. They have some of the easiest mattes to blend that I've tried. I really like this color story. You do get one of their most famous colors, Sketch, which is a gorgeous burgundy shade. I think that one is fantastic. Next up, the ColourPop Hocus Pocus. I actually really do enjoy this palette. The only thing I don't love is they have several of these matte shades with shimmers in them that on the eye, they kind of just look like a matte or a satin. There is a pressed glitter, which, you know, like I said, I don't like those. But the rest of the palette is amazing. These 6 here are beautiful jewel tones. Actually, this color is beautiful too. This one is really lovely as well. This matte shade blends so well. It's a great formula other than the glitter, you know, and those few shades that they put shimmer in. I don't know why ColourPop is doing that. They seem to be doing that quite often nowadays, but I think that this went with the theme. Obviously, I really do love this movie, but if I didn't like the color story, I would not have bought this. Next up is a palette that I did get in PR, but I really do like this one. It is the Wander Beauty Wondrous Escape. This is a beautiful color story. It really is. I like that you get mauve, some warm tones. This blue shade is so pretty. I've really enjoyed using it. This is a thinner formula than I've tried from other brands, and I definitely need a wet brush with the shimmers, but with a wet brush, they are beautiful, and the mattes blend out really well. I think this is a very beautiful palette. Next up is the Original Nubian by Juvia's. I placed an Ulta order earlier in 2020 where I redeemed all of my Ulta points for a bunch of palettes. So I got a couple from Juvia's. I got those Smashbox ones. I actually got, I think, 10 to 12 of these with my Ulta points. It is the only thing I used Ulta points for in 2020. But this, I really kind of wanted to complete my Juvia's collection a little bit. This is a really basic neutral palette. It really is, but the formula is so good on this one. I don't know, it's almost better than even some of my other Juvia's palettes. Maybe because it's newer. Some of my other Juvia's palettes, I will say, are getting a bit older. This is an impeccable formula, nothing super unique color story wise, But, you know, with the price too, you cannot go wrong. I think this is only about $16, $18. This one is fantastic. At this point, we're getting into the palettes that I really, really like, and I don't have much negative to say. I'm gonna group these three Ophir palettes together just because I kind of feel the same way about them. They're just different color stories. Two of these I did get in PR. This is one of the ones I got in PR. This is their Black Friday palette. I don't think it's available anymore. I think it was limited edition for Black Friday, but this is such an awesome color story. This is really unique for my collection. Other than that Rock Chic quad by Charlotte Tilbury, it's a little similar to this. Very cool tone, but very slate gray, smoky. This is a really nice palette. I really like it. And some of these shades are pretty dark, but I found them pretty easy to work with considering how deep they are. Then we have this one. This is the Glamour Glitch. Yeah, this is the Glamour Glitch. I got this one in PR also, and I think this is a great palette. This is a combination of mattes and some shimmers. I will say that the Ophir shimmers, they are not metallic foiled eyeshadows, so just keep that in mind. They are a true shimmer shadow, but they're really smooth and easy to work with, and you get very little fallout. I think it's a nice formula, and I think for people who don't want that foiled metallic eyeshadow look like you would get with Juvia's Place, for example, I think you would like this. I find this to be a beautiful color story, easy to work with. And then there's one more. This one I bought myself with Ulta points, and this is the original Glitch palette. They have another one too called the Glitch 2000. This one is all shimmer, and these are beautiful. I love this palette. I don't mind using multiple palettes to get a look, so I often will use one of these on the lid and then mattes from another palette in the crease. This is really pretty. I like these so much. Like I said, they're not metallic or foiled, but they're really smooth, easy to work with, and I really like these colors. Next up, we have another from Juvia's that I wanted to complete my collection, the Saharan. This is another one of their older palettes, but this is so good. This color story is beautiful. It really is. There's no duds in here. It's really pigmented, really metallic. And yeah, I mean, really have enjoyed this one. And I'm gotta say, I'm glad that I got this one and that other one that I didn't own before. I was weary of their older palettes because I thought that maybe the formula would not be as good, but that turned out not to be true. And this one is great. Then we have this one from Illamasqua. I got this in PR, and this is a really, really nice palette. It is a little pricey. It's $50 full price, but you can often get it on sale. This one is called the Movement Artistry palette, and it's a combination of a lot of different tones. You do get a few more colorful shades. You get this taupey color, you get warm tones on this side. I find this to be a really versatile palette. I feel like I can do a lot of different looks. And the formula is fantastic. These are so smooth, easy to work with. Very, very impressed with this, and I'm really excited I got to try that. And we have these two Dose of Colors palettes. I have one other of the 5 pans that I've had for a while, the Marvelous Mauves. I bought these in 2020. This one I got at Ulta. This is the Baked Browns. I mean, this is just 5 matte warm brown shades. This is not anything unique, but I love the quality of this formula, and I do love warm tones. I mean, warm tones and rainbow eyeshadow looks are probably my favorite. I feel like I can use this in conjunction with a ton of different palettes, and I've gotten a ton of use out of this one. This one I bought in the BoxyCharm pop-up when I did still have BoxyCharm for only like $12, which I thought was a good deal. These are $32 full price. I think that is a little bit pricey for 5 eyeshadows, but again, the formula is so, so good. This is the Blushing Berries, and I really do enjoy it. I have not used it as much as the Baked Browns, just because this, you know, is more of like an everyday color story for me, but the quality is amazing. I have the Marvelous Mauves too, like I said, and I absolutely love that one. Alrighty, Natasha Denona. This is the Sunrise palette, and I like this one. I do. As you will see though, I don't like it as much as other Natasha Denona palettes. I just think the formula could have been a little bit better. The formula on this one is just not quite as good as some of the other palettes that I own. Few of these shades just don't have a ton of pigment, and you really have to build them up. Some of these, like around here, they just, I really got to layer them up. Whereas these over here, they're all super pigmented, easy to work with. So it's not a bad palette, but as you will see, there are some other Natasha Denona palettes that I will mention that I just think the formula is a bit better. But this is a gorgeous color story. Overall, I am happy that I got this one. Really, really pretty. You've got some duochromes here, this fuchsia shade, the orange, the yellow. It's a good palette. I definitely don't regret it. Mine does squeak. That's really the only true downfall. It's a little bit annoying, but it's okay. It's not that bad. All right, we're making progress here. Next up, Natasha Denona Gold Palette. I like this one too, but again, it's not quite as good as some of the others that I'll show you. Some of the shades, they're just a little bit more difficult to work with because they are a little bit chunky, but with a wet brush, I can definitely make them work. Some of them are more topper shades, and then some are really smooth and pigmented like these over here. The mattes are really great, easy to work with. I have mentioned before when I ranked this in a ranking new eyeshadow palettes video that I am a little annoyed that these two matte shades on the eye, they look nearly identical, which for something this expensive, I don't like that. And I will say Natasha Denona has done that in other palettes, which for me is a bit of a pet peeve, especially at this price point. So I like this one. This is one that I got on sale. She had it on sale on her site sometime last year. So I don't regret getting it. If I had paid full price, maybe I'd have a few more regrets. I do think that some of the golds in here though are more unique. You know, when I first heard about this, I was like, okay, gold eyeshadow, I have tons of those, but I do think that some of the shades in there are pretty unique. Next up is this Tom Ford Quad. Obviously, I tried a lot of luxury makeup, but also affordable makeup in 2020. I did not pay full price at all. These are $88, which is pretty insane. I would not have paid that. I got it for $33 at a CCO, cosmetic company outlet store. So I'm considering what I paid for this in the ranking. If I had paid $88, I wouldn't be ranking it this high, but this is a really pretty palette. This formula is so smooth. I don't need a wet brush. There is no fallout at all. I think this is a beautiful palette. It really is. Honestly, $33 is still a lot for a 4-pan palette, but I really enjoy it. I've always wanted a Tom Ford Quad, so I'm really glad that I got one. Oh, this is the one in Nude Dip, by the way. Very neutral colors. I can combine it with a lot of other palettes, so you know, easy everyday colors, and the formula, I gotta say, is pretty nice. I think I'm somewhere around number 22. This is the Urban Decay Naked Honey palette. Now, I have wanted this since it came out, and I did do a dupe video on it at that time, and I said it was beautiful, but I just felt like I had these colors. But Black Friday, this was 50% off, so I did decide to get it. And I gotta say, I mean, I was right. I had these shades, you know, when I duped it, I think I was pretty spot on, gotta say. But now that I have this, I do think this formula is amazing. I'm really, really pleasantly surprised. These are so smooth. I don't even need a wet brush with the metallic shades. I mean, there's a lot of warm browns, some golds. It's not that unique. It's not, and I definitely have these colors in my collection. I did not need this, but I think for $24, considering how good this formula is, I'm actually really happy that I bought it, but I am glad and that I waited and didn't get it full price. Here's another one that I had wanted for quite some time, the Sigma Untamed palette. Full price, this is $50. I think that is a little bit expensive, and I've mentioned in other videos, I had bought a Sigma eyeshadow palette a long time ago, like years ago, and it was one of the worst palettes I've ever tried. So I was hesitant to buy their newer palettes, but people gave this one such good reviews. I got this for Black Friday, and I think it was 50% off, pretty close to it. It is beautiful. This is the palette I'm wearing today, and I have no regrets about getting it. I think Sigma has improved their formula so much. The mattes are very easy to blend. I'm usually pretty intimidated to use black eyeshadow, but I feel like this one is really easy to work with. The shimmers, definitely, they're not crazy pigmented, but they have so much shine, and I definitely do think you do need a wet brush. I've had bad luck using the Sigma shimmers without a wet brush, but with it, it is amazing. I put on 2 layers to get this look with this shade right here. It is beautiful. Yeah, I don't have anything negative to say, especially since I did get it for such a good discount. If I had paid $50 though, I still think it would be worth that because I think it's that great. Also, I think this packaging is beautiful. You do get one of the Sigma brushes with their palettes, and I actually use that brush a lot. So it ended up being worth it because it's a really, really good brush. So yeah, really no regrets here. All right, I'm getting to the level where really I don't have much negative to say about these palettes. This is the Dominique Cosmetics Latte palette. I've wanted to try this brand for a while, and I gotta say I'm pleasantly surprised with this formula. I got this at the Sephora VIB sale. Now, none of these colors are super unique, but it is a really nice formula. These matte shades blend so well. These metallics are beautiful. You don't even need a wet brush with them. It does add a little bit of extra shine if you do. Actually, I was surprised these two colors are quite pretty also. These are very pigmented eyeshadows, so if you like that intense pigmentation, but they're still easy to work with, I do think that that one is good. Next up is one that really surprised me. I have wanted to try this brand for a while. It is Glamlight. This is their Caliente palette. This is a beautiful palette. I love this color story. This is an indie brand, and I did get this on sale too. They often have coupon codes, and a lot of influencers also have coupon codes with them. This is a great palette. I mean, the color story is just beautiful. That may be my favorite thing about it, but these metallics are so foiled. They do need a wet brush, but with that, they look amazing. The mattes are on the thinner side, so they do take some building. I don't mind though. With bright colors, I actually prefer a bit less pigment just because it's easier to work with. Next up, we have another one that really surprised me. This is the Venice Fling Bailey Sarian palette by Estate Cosmetics. I really like this palette. I was surprised. I'd never tried the brand, so I was a bit leery purchasing this, but this formula, it's great. I was surprised. Again, these are really foiled and metallic. The mattes are easy to blend. I love this kind of sunset color story. Full price, I can't remember exactly how much this palette is. I think it's close to $40. Again, I did use a coupon code. I think a lot of different influencers have coupon codes with them too. So yeah, that one pleasantly surprised me. Okay, I'm gonna talk about another one that surprised me actually, and that is the e.l.f. Retro Paradise. Now, e.l.f. came in last place, but this one is so good. This is $14 and it's just amazing. Again, this one, the color story really speaks to me because it's got some bright colors, it's got warm tones, which are my two favorite things. I really love this one. The only thing is, again, these need a wet brush. Without a wet brush, I've tried it and it is crumble city. So I would not recommend it, but just use a little setting spray. And this is a beautiful palette. The mattes blend really well. It's very pigmented. Best formula from e.l.f. that I've tried as far as eyeshadows. I think it's better than the bite-sized palettes. And I've tried other e.l.f. eyeshadows in the past that I just really, really did not like. So this was amazing, and it's only $14. It's fantastic. Okay, I still have quite a few palettes to talk about, but we're making progress. Next up is another Charlotte Tilbury quad. And I think the formula is just as good on this one as the Rock Chic, but I just wear these colors more. This is the one called Bella Sophia, and they are beautiful. You do get one of her pop shades. These are kind of shimmers here. They're great. They really are such a smooth formula. Obviously, there are no mattes in this one, so this is one I use with other palettes, but it's beautiful. Nothing negative to say. Actually, really happy that I got with that one, and I just think because of the colors, I'm going to use it more. All right, then we have Viseart. This is the Boheme Dream. I got this on sale on their site earlier in 2020. This is beautiful. All shimmer metallic palette. There's not a dud in here. You don't need a wet brush, super foiled and beautiful. Nothing negative to say there. Next up, we have one I talked about a lot, and that is the Safari palette. I got it for $64 on the Tasha website, and I'm really happy I got this one. This is another one of her polarizing palettes. Some people love it, some people hate it. I love it. These are more pigmented than her other matte shades, but I find them pretty easy to use. These three here are maybe a little harder to blend, but the rest are fantastic. I do usually like to do a metallic on the lid, so this tends to be more of a companion palette for me to use like in the crease, outer corner, lower lash line, but I love the color story. I love the formula. This is great. All right, I think we're in the top 13, and I don't have much negative to say about any of these because I really, really love these palettes. The Mini Sublime. I love this one. I've used it a lot. I think the formula on this and the Mini Subversive are equal. I've just used this one much more. You do get these beautiful metallic, more neutral gold bronze colors. It's just a really nice palette and I've gotten a ton of use out of it. Last I checked, that was still 50% off on Sephora, and I think that's amazing. I mean, $28 is full price. That's still cheap for Pat McGrath, but $14 is pretty good. All right, next up, another Sigma palette. This is amazing. I love it. This is the Enchanted palette. I got this, I think, for 30 or 40% off as well. So I gotta say, if you wanna get a Sigma palette, I would wait, sign up for their emails. They do sales pretty often. So I would try to wait for that if you can. This is more unique color story to my collection. A lot of duochromes, very ethereal type colors, beautiful. So I do think this is pretty unique. I don't really have anything like this in my collection and I have absolutely loved it. Cosmetics, Avocado Toast. This is an amazing palette and it's only $16. This formula is pretty much perfect. I have nothing negative to say about it. The metallics are super foiled. You don't need a wet brush. The mattes blend themselves. If you like green eyeshadow, but you want a bit more variety, I think this is a really, really good palette. Then we have the Beautiful in Barcelona. I've talked about these a lot. Beautiful, again, nothing negative to say. Formula, pretty much perfect. Very foiled and beautiful. I really like the color story. This one I just like slightly more than the Avocado Toast because I've gotten more use out of it because of the color story, but yeah, nothing negative to say there. ColourPop So Jaded. I love this one too. I've talked about it a lot. I think this one is still available, but I don't know. It's gone in and out of stock on the ColourPop website. This did have 2 glitters that I removed, but the rest of the palette is amazing. I love the jewel tones. It stuck well to the theme. Formula is fantastic. Definitely need a wet brush though for these. You get some more neutrals, you get some more colorful shades. I love Emerald and Peridot and what's that one? Ruby. Beautiful. Some of my favorites. This palette is fantastic. You're on number 8. Dose of Colors Friendcation palette. I got this 50% off on their website. This one has been around a really long time and I just never got it. I'm glad I finally got it and also at a good price. This is a beautiful palette. These metallics here are so sparkly and beautiful and they're very glittery, but they're not pressed glitters, which again, I don't like, but they're just so shimmery and sparkly. These are the type of colors that if I want that glittery look, but again, I don't like to use glitters. I'm not into the steel of glitters anymore. This is the palette I would go for. These shades are beautiful. The mattes are also amazing. Again, nothing bad to say. Really like that one. Another great one, Persona. This is the Identity 2 palette. This formula is one of the best I've ever tried. The mattes blend so well. The metallic shades are really smooth, easy to work with. I also really like this color story. I like the combo of like the purple with some neutrals and the gold. It's a great palette. This one is full price, $42. This is one of the ones that I got with Ulta points though, but yeah, if I had paid full price, I would have no regrets. Then we have another one that I talked about a lot, the Viseart Warm Mattes. This is another one I got on sale on the Viseart website, which is what I would recommend if you want to buy Viseart. They have 20% off sales, I feel like all the time. This is very basic colors, very simple, warm neutrals, but I've gotten a lot of use out of it. Like I said, my go-tos are warm neutrals and colorful eyeshadows, so this is right up my alley. I think this is an amazing formula. Some of the easiest mattes to blend ever. Okay, we are on number 5, the Natasha Denona Glam palette. I love this one. I really, really do. I bought this for Sephora. I think I got somewhere around 23% off. This is one I wanted when it came out, but I decided to dupe it and wait for a sale. I'm glad I didn't pay full price, but this is such a good palette. Very similar to the Anastasia Sultry palette. I do own that palette. Now that I own both, I can tell you that there are a lot of similar shades. However, I much prefer this formula. I like the Natasha Denona formula way better than Anastasia. The shimmers are smoother, they're more foiled, the mattes are easier to blend. Beautiful, cool tone, neutral palette. The only thing that I don't love is I think it lacks a bit of depth. And I think they could have done a bit better with the mattes that they selected, but the shimmers are beautiful. Formula is amazing. I'm really glad that I finally bought that one. All right, we're on number 4, and I gotta say the top 5, it is all luxury brands, but I got all these on sale, so keep that in mind. Golden Opulence by Pat McGrath. I love this palette. I got it for 50, actually it was more than that. I think it was 60% off on her website in one of her summer sales. And this formula is beyond all. It is so good. These metallic shades are so foiled. You don't need a wet brush. These mattes are some of the easiest mattes I've ever used. It's just amazing. I'm so glad that I got this one. I don't love this like flipping packaging, but that's okay. It's an amazing palette. Okay, number 3 is also a bit of a newer one that I did get. Cyber Monday, 25% off. The bronze palette. Oh my gosh. Like I said, I love warm neutrals, so this is right up my alley. Wow, I love this one. This really, nothing negative to say. Formula, top-notch perfection. Mattes blend themselves. Metallics are so foiled and metallic. You don't really need a wet brush. I've worn this one with and without a wet brush. They are a bit better with a wet brush, but it's not a must-do for this. It's so good. I mean, if you like these gold copper shades, I would recommend it. And I gotta say, some of these have a bit of a flip to them. They're more unique than they look in the pan, I gotta say. I mean, I own a lot of warm neutrals, but I don't think I have anything exactly like this. And I don't think I have anything as good as this formula-wise. Number 2, this was the last palette I bought before I started my low buy, and I'm so happy I got it. I have been in love with this. It's the Charlotte Tilbury Bejeweled Eyes to Hypnotize palette. This one is pricey, it's $75. This is one of the few palettes I did pay full price. So keep that in mind. A lot of these, like I said, I got on sale or with Ulta points. This one I paid full price and I don't regret it. It is an amazing formula. You get not that many mattes, a lot of metallics. You don't get any of her pop formula. I know some people don't like the pop formula, some people do. I like it, but personally I could do without it because it's a bit more of a topper type formula, but these metallics, I mean, you don't need a wet brush. These are some of the easiest mattes I've ever used. I love that you get like the red and this like pinkish red and a purple and some warm neutrals. This is a great palette. I am really impressed with the formula. I'm so glad that I got this before I started my low buy. It is amazing. And number 1, yes, I had to pick the Natasha Denona green and brown palette. Now, again, I got this in the bundle with the other ones, so I paid $155 for each. I don't regret getting this one. Now, if I'd paid $239, you know, I'm not sure. Hard to say. I mean, it's pretty expensive. It's really hard to justify, so I'm not even going to try to do that because even how much I paid is pretty ridiculous. But now that I own this palette, the formula on this is really nice. I mean, these metallics, you don't need a wet brush. I mean, you can. I've done both ways. The mattes blend themselves. Again, I really love warm neutrals, so right up my alley, but the greens in here are amazing. I really, really enjoy this one. I'm really, really loving this palette. Overall, I gotta say, I'm really happy that I got it. I think the colors, the formula are amazing. Alrighty, that is it for this ranking. I just ranked 58 eyeshadow palettes. As I mentioned, I will link my eyeshadow palette playlist and my ranking makeup playlist and my low buy intro if you want to see that. Clearly, I'm on a low buy for a reason because I bought a crazy amount of palettes last year, but most of these I really like. It's really only like those bottom 5 or 6 that I'm just not that into. But the rest, especially like, you know, the top 20 are fantastic. I have no regrets. And now I just want to get use out of these palettes. So yeah, I'm really excited to use these more. Let us know your favorite eyeshadow palettes of the year or just in general. That is it. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.